Welcome to The Long Haul, the podcast dedicated to empowering small carriers and owner-operators to drive their business forward. I'm your host, Adam Wingfield, bringing you insights from industry leaders, real-world success stories, and strategies to help you navigate the road to profitability. Whether you're just getting started or looking to take your fleet to the next level, this is the show where trucking meets opportunity. So buckle up, it's time to go the distance. Welcome back to another episode of the Long Haul Podcast. And you know, my objective on these podcasts is to bring guests that can bring you practical information that's been there in some capacity that can help you navigate through this challenging environment that we call the trucking industry. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking to a good friend of mine that really just inspired me from his journey in terms of how he got into business, helping the family business out, and really using that as a platform to start his business and really kind of showcase what he's doing throughout. His journey in trucking is nothing short of inspiring. He transformed his family trucking business from a modest fleet of 3 trucks to an impressive 50 truck operation. This remarkable growth was achieved by challenging industry norms and emphasizing the significance of small carriers simply rolling up their sleeves to establish direct relationships with shippers. Through Truckpedia, which is the company that he currently is the CEO of, he now empowers other family-oriented, small-run trucking companies to do the same exact things and enhance profitability, sustainable growth, utilizing technology. So without further ado, I am pleased to bring on to this platform today the CEO and visionary of Truckpedia, Mr. Justin Liu. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Hey, Adam. Thank you for having me here.
Man, I'm glad to have you on board, man, and really excited about our conversation today. You know, I've been watching your journey, watching some of the footage that you have. You're out there shaking hands with shippers and all that good stuff, and we're going to get into that and really kind of get into the nuts and bolts. But I really want to go back a little bit, Justin. I want to talk about the beginnings and push back a little bit towards the humble beginning. Where did this trucking thing so where did it stem from? Where did it come from in your family?
It actually came from my dad. He was a truck driver for decades, and he became owner operator. And shortly after he became owner operator, he started trying to scale his business. All often, between 1 to 3 trucks. And one thing he did was kind of like a comparison to the stock market. When the price is high, the retail investors buy. When they're low, they sell. They're always at a loss. Something similar to him, playing the spot market, always trying to buy trucks and increase in the number of units he has when the market was good. I think when the market became bad, and he would sell the truck at a loss. So kind of stemmed from the family business. Me growing up, witnessing my parents struggling in the trucking business, but providing a living for the family. So that's where it all started.
So, you know, in the early stages, what strategies did you particularly, when you saw, dad was out there just trying to make it happen? What was that moment where you were like, you know what? I think I got the answer to this problem. Let me try something and let me see if it works. What moment was that for you?
It was actually working at Amazon. My first job out of college, I was launching robotic warehouses at Amazon, and seeing all the trucks coming in and out and us receiving trucks and unloading the trucks made me realize that, wait a minute, me growing up, seeing my dad scaling his business, growing in the old school way. But it turned out that, even company as big as Amazon, this was only 2017, 2018, not too long ago. And it's so old school. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, there's a gap between trucking
Mhm.
and technology and how you scale. Someone as big as Amazon was still doing a lot of things the old school way. So that's when I decided, maybe there's something I can do to help my dad and learn something about the trucking industry.
And so you went out and you said, "Hey, you know what? I'm just going to continue to just kind of learn as much as I can about the industry." What motivated you to say, "Hey, you know what? All right, I think I figured this out. I think I figured this out, and I'm going to go all in and see what happens."
Honestly, I never had it figured out. I didn't
Yeah.
know what I was doing. I just wanted to help him, and I wanted to retire him from trucking. So, giving the knowledge I know, what I learned right? I didn't know I was going to be able to scale from him. I didn't know it was going to be a success or not. To me, I kind of gave myself, at the time, I was 24. I give myself 3 years. In 3 years, I'm gonna allocate the next 3 years of my life to help my family scale the business. If I'm able to, great, retire my parents. If not, I'm only 27. I'll be only 27, and I can either go back to the corporate world or go to business school and do
Mhm.
something, do it on my own. So I never knew what I was doing, even when I joined the family business. I think what really stood out to me was the way how trucking was operating. No one was challenging anything. You said, hey, you just go on the DAT load boards. Go on that. You'll be the first one dialing in. You'll be fast, and if you want the hot loads. And you book loads and you try to cover for backhauls, going through the load boards. And I knew nothing about spot contract and load board shippers. There's a lot of misconceptions in trucking. I had to find out myself throughout that journey. So that whole journey was about discovery, learning, never stop learning. How can I implement technology? How can I get more business? How can I get better paying loads? Is it better to do it across the country from California to New Jersey, or is it better to stay within 500 miles, or it's somewhere in the middle, right? So we had to do a lot of testing to figure out what really worked for our business along that journey.
And your dad spent a lot of time, most of his time on low boards.
100% of the times on load boards.
And that's what one of the things that you said, you know what? We were at you went take the journey when you went from, the 1 to 3 truck range to 50. How did what was the spark of that growth? Where did that come from?
Taking risk. I think one thing that really doubled our fleet size, I think this was 2019, when Celadon went out of business. All of their trucks were for auction, for sale. 400 to 500,000 mile trucks. This was 2019. Their truck were 2016, 2017. Pretty much very new truck in great condition, and they were selling for like 20,000 to 30,000 each. So that's when I realized, wait a minute, this is so affordable. The market is never predictable, but I knew that even if I bought the trucks, it would not be a loss. So we had quite a bit of cash saved up. I never factored on any load, and I did everything in house. So we had a decent amount of cash. So we bought trailers, bought trucks. It really doubled us from 25 to 50 trucks. We didn't immediately put those trucks to operations, a couple at a time, 3 to 4 at a time, 3 4 at a time, and got our fleet from 25 to 50. And we even sold some of the trucks at the time, when the market recovered a little bit in 2020.
So when you get to the point where, hey, you know what? Okay, we got some cash saved up. What was the moment to where you were able to secure your first direct shipper for dad, so that way you have that consistent freight? What was that moment like? What was that process look like for you?
You know, at the time, our office was in City of Industry, California parking lot, and City of Industry slash Walnut, California area. I was just driving to work every day, and I see a lot of warehouses nearby. I was like, wait a minute, there's trucks coming in and all the time. And even our truck sometimes would go to some of the neighboring warehouse to pick up, but we just never even introduced ourselves to them. And I asked my dad this question. I think it was about 3 months into the business, me joining the business, asking, why don't we go directly to the shippers? They're our neighbors. Why don't we talk to them? My dad goes, you may need to have a broker license before you can reach out to shippers for
Mhm,
business. And then he goes, I don't know, but you can
mhm,
try if you want to. So I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why do I need to have a broker license to go to after shippers? Did a little digging, a little research, realized actually I don't. Brokers go out to have a broker license because they're not asset. They don't have an operating authority. We do. We
mhm,
don't need to. So just with that, print out some business cards, just went straight knock on some doors. And hey, we're your neighbor down the street over there, and I see you guys have trucks coming in and out. Uh, do you guys work with your neighbors? How do you guys find trucks? So it turned out to be a lot easier process than I originally thought it was. People are very welcoming. People are actually very willing to talk to you. And after talking, I forgot how many exactly, 10 to 20 shippers. First shipper said, yes, been looking for carriers locally to help us, but couldn't find anybody reliable. And we go, and we're just your neighbor down the street. Anytime you need a truck, if our drivers can't make it, our family can hop in and pick up, and it happened to be that they were hauling some medical stuff, and that's how I got myself into the medical. I didn't even know I was niching
Mhm.
down on the industry. So they were doing medical stuff. I talked to them, and shortly working together, they really like our service. Very fair pricing to them. To me, it's like, oh my god, I'm quoting him 10% higher than what I'm getting from low boards, right? This is good pay. And to them, it's like I'm saving money
Yeah.
and I'm getting better service.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for both of us. After doing business for a couple of months, they started referring their friends to us. Referring their friends to us, we got more shippers coming in. Their friends just happened to be in the medical industry as well. And then I started knocking on more doors, and just over time, I didn't do it consistently. Just whenever I got a chance to, I would just map out neighboring warehouses, go knock on their doors and talk to them. And very not all customers immediately turn into our shippers. It's over time I kept in touch with them, following up with them, and especially when COVID hit, when there was a shortage of trucks, everybody started replying to emails and reaching out to us. We became really busy, and freight just went skyrocketed. So everything just took off from there. I think for me to grow the family business, luck played a big factor, and also I think another thing that I just was not afraid. I think it's a good thing that the early mid 20 me was very adventurous, risk taker. I wanted to high risk, high return, right? I in college, I love the stock market. I love Warren Buffett saying is, be fearful when others are. I forgot the exact saying. It's been too long. Like pretty much be fearful when others are, and pretty much saying like when others are fearful, you just go all in. When others are all going all in, you pull back just to see what the market is. 2020, 2019, 2020, before COVID, right when COVID first happened, everyone was scared. Like, what do I do? Like, you see literally brand new trucks going for like dirt cheap. And I was like, I'm going to buy them. The world is not going to end. I'm going to buy them. I'm going to scale. I'm going to get my customers, right? I'm going to start going to trade shows, start going to talk to more customers. Still, with brokers, I never took brokers out of equation because, in my opinion, for the backhauls, brokers are very helpful. There were some bad brokers, just like there are bad carriers too. But
Mhm.
by having a healthy mix of shippers, I became selective on which brokers I partner up with. I don't have to deal with all brokers. And for my outbound loads, especially, I don't need anybody. I got my own trucks covered. It's only for the backhauls where I can, work with brokers, get my trucks back so I can service my shippers. So kind of that, everything just worked really well and it propelled our growth to where we were at before the company was acquired.
And the thing is too that was so big on that is that, you talked about something and we'll hit on that a little bit later in this session, but you mentioned a good point for you specifically is that it takes multiple touch points, including follow-up, in order for you to be able to secure that shipper. You're not gonna go out as a small carrier and close that shipper on the first doorbell ring or the first knock or the first, "Hey, you know what? I open the door and voila." It's gonna take some work behind it. So I'm glad that you kinda hinged on that. We're gonna go follow up with that here a little bit later as we get into the discussion. But then I wanna talk about your journey. So you was in the family business, got the company, 50 trucks. Then you decided to say, "Hey, you know what? I've got an idea and I think I can take this to market and I wanna try my hand at entrepreneurship." Tell us about your journey as you launched your first venture as an entrepreneur.
So same thing. I think a lot of time entrepreneurs were solving our own problems, and with the growth on the trucking side, immediately what came was the tedious manual work. Shippers wanted to have updates. They want to have POD. They want to have invoicing done. They want to have this and up. Everything done automated. And on our end, we just didn't have enough people for data entry, for invoicing, for dispatching and everything in between. So I was like, I need to have a system. So I started looking for systems to help me grow. Look at a lot of systems at the time. I think post COVID, a lot of TMS startups came out and became very powerful. But at the time, there wasn't many options that were modern. TMS solutions powerful, modern, affordable. So out of the frustration, I was like, hey, I can probably build my own system. And that's also being in the industry for a year or two. realized most people were just like my parents, right? They
Mhm.
don't know anything about technology, and they don't any. There's a gap between technology and transportation, especially on the carrier side. So I was like, okay, this is a perfect opportunity for me to do this. My 3 year plan was still on track. I said, hey, I still don't want to take over the trucking business, but now I carve out another path for myself to focus on the transportation side. This is towards the end of 2021, beginning 2022, right? I had a prototype built out, just some simple dispatching, simple data entry part that we created. So then I decided to, after the company was acquired, went straight into the the TMS side. Same thing. TMS side launching a product to help people to scale their trucking company. Same approach, exactly same
Yeah.
approach I did in trucking for TMS. Now I need to talk to carriers rather than talk to shippers. I need to talk to more carriers. I'm promoting my product to them. So I remember this clearly. It was late March, beginning of April of 2022. We had a product, nothing from perfect, but it works. And I didn't even have a booth. I said, where can I find the most carriers? And then I found out about MATS, Mid America
Mhm.
Trucking Show, 2022, first time. This like literally a week before the event happened, I registered a booth, flew there without a booth, wouldn't even have a booth. We were using a projector, and we had maybe like 1 to 2 customers on our product. So I went straight there. I think that first trade show, we learned about 5 to 10 customers from there. Like our first 10 customers came from Matt in 2022, right?
Wow.
Went straight to talk to trucking companies and realized that they all share the same point that I had. You're running a trucking company, you don't want to do data entry, don't want to do invoicing, you don't want to do a driver settlement, and you want everything to be easy, easy, and can replace the human with the manual labor work that you do with automation and workflow automation. Just with that approach, I went to Matt, we launched, and I love watching, listening to a lot of podcasts, watching, learning from people. One thing, this is another thing I learned from a YC, Y Combinator. One of the guys saying is, if you're not embarrassed by your first launch, you're launching too late. So our product was far from perfect, but far from like, it's
Yeah.
a working prototype, minimum features. So we just went live with that, and then acquiring customers, taking customer feedback, and keep on building the product. We're still building to this day, right? Always building, trying to make the product better, acquire more and more customers, and make their journey easy.
No, I love the kind of, the approach that, we're gonna go out. It might not be perfect, but I'm gonna start because most of the time the biggest thing that hold people back is just that fear of getting out there and starting. What are some of the common misconceptions, even and I want to ask you just from your experience because you deal with the TMS side, the sales side when it comes down to it. What are the common misconceptions do small carriers have about working directly with shippers? And what were one of those things that, and this is a conversation that you and I have had before, but just tell the folks, what do you see in as common misconceptions?
The biggest one is I'm too small. Shippers don't want
Yeah.
to work with me. I think that's the biggest one. Same thing as carriers adopting TMS. I only got 5 trucks. I don't need a system, right? I think people have that fear that stop them from what they're doing. And then a lot of the small carriers, when we reach out, say, "Hey, I want to reach out to Costco. How do I reach out to Coca Cola? How do I reach out to Home Depot?" You only have 3 to 5 trucks. You don't
Right.
need those people. Just
Yeah.
knock on your neighbor's door with 1 or 2 warehouses, and the forklift driver might be the owner. You knock on the door, you're talking to the owner. Talk to those people, right? Acquire those businesses first. And then as you scale, then you go to the bigger one. And a lot of times, I think that's the biggest part. The second part is technology. I think the misconception come from carriers. They go, I'm too small. I don't need technology to help me grow. I can do this manually. But little do they realize all the work that they do, I categorize them as $5 tasks, right? You don't want to do
Mhm.
data entry into your spreadsheet. The same data entry to enter again to dispatch your drivers, and same thing again when you're invoicing your customers. You're doing the same thing 3 times, and you're providing updates, and you're sending POD, getting them from your driver. Your driver scan it to you through a scanner. You get your email. You upload to a folder, and you upload your email and send it to your customer. All the stuff, yes, you can do it, but those are the manual work that prevent you from going to knock on doors, from actually developing your pipeline of shippers.
The thing is that when you look at that, you have cold calling is another approach. When you're looking at cold calling as a whole, a lot of carriers may not have sales experience, and not having sales experience, that cold calling is not necessarily a telephone call. That's a cold approach that if you're going to go knock on doors, it could be daunting. So how did you and your team approach that process? And what would
Ooh,
you give as what advice would you give to any carriers that are hesitant?
I mean, if you met the early college or high school version of me, I was a typical Asian nerd, glasses, afraid to talk to people, afraid to say hi to anybody. And I always tell people, if I can conquer the fear of becoming uncomfortable and talking to people,
Mhm.
anybody can. I think it just comes down to your desire, like how bad do you want to scale your business, how bad do you want to grow, right? If you're stop complaining about the low board, do something, change it, and it all can be done, right? I think it just really starts from putting yourself out there. You're gonna mess up the first time. You're gonna mess up the first 10 times maybe, but the 11th time, the 12th time, you're gonna slowly get better, and you're gonna be like, oh, this is actually much easier than I thought it was. To this day, like I mean, this year, I think I did it 3 to 4 times this year so far with our carriers, ranging between anywhere from 5 to 60 trucks. I actually went to knock on doors with them. They were nervous. They didn't know how to start a conversation. I calmed them down. Said, "Hey, it's okay, right? We're just talking to them. We're not stealing anything. We're just trying to help them out, right? We're gonna pick. If anything, shippers will love to talk to us because we own assets." And going back to what we mentioned about misconception part, I think another big misconception carriers have is they don't realize that owning asset is the biggest advantage they have.
That's the
They don't
flex.
realize how many brokers buy a couple of trucks just so they can label themselves as asset-based brokers. There's nothing wrong with that, but trucking companies need to realize that and learn from brokers. How can you develop your skills so you get comfortable talking to people, get comfortable talking about people, promoting your business, promote yourself. And after, I promise, after the cold call, you get rejected several times, you're gonna see a pattern. You're gonna know what people want to hear, and you're gonna know how to get them to talk to you. And you're gonna find people that, oh, perfect timing. We're looking for someone just like you, right? So I think it just overcoming the fear, and by repetition, right? Repetition, going to knock on doors, going to talk to people, and it will get better and better and get easier over time.
And sometimes, you just gotta get that first no out of the way. Sometimes you like work yourself up so much that you think that it's something when it really isn't that bad. Like you're like, oh, okay, well, they said no, but give me a call later. Then you're like, you know what? That ain't bad. Let me go ahead and try again. But it gives you that level of confidence that is necessary when it comes down to it.
100%. What you mentioned there is like, yeah, it's not as bad as you think it is. Like, just do it. Like, just execute, right? If you have idea, call number, email, whatever that is, get the first no, and it only becomes easier.
The thing too, man, you think you hear it all the time. You hear it in a variety of these social media groups where, like you said, the biggest misconception is that you're too small. Like, carrier shippers don't want to work with you as a small carrier. That's one of the biggest crocs of what, because when you think about that, and I remember I was having a conversation with an owner op, and he was like, yeah, you know, 99% of the shippers in America only want to work with large carriers. And I was like, all right, well, let's do some math on that. Let's just say that's about 250 to 275,000 shippers in America, which we can categorize as manufacturers, distributors. Obviously, there's more that goes into it. Let's say it's 300,000. So you mean to tell me that over 270,000 people you've talked to personally and they said no to you because you had those conversations? No, that ain't happening. And the thing that you have to get behind get behind the wall of and get out in front of as a small carrier is to mind your business. Don't allow somebody else's ineffectiveness or what somebody can't do become what you can't do, because everybody has their own lane. And I think that was really powerful on how you say that. So when you look at it from a standpoint of how can small carriers build trust and maintain trust with shippers to enforce those long-term partnerships? Once they go in, they close the deal, we've knocked on doors. What are some of those things that they need to do once they win that business to maintain and keep trust?
I think small carriers are already really good at that, and earning trust. A lot of small carriers, in my experience, small carriers provide better services than the bigger carriers. Because
Why's that?
literally, you got 3 to 5 trucks. If you're low, my driver is sick, couldn't make it. I'm gonna hop in and I'll pick up your load. all owner operators, all drivers have that mentality. I think the owner operators, small carriers, less than 10 trucks, less than 20 trucks, once they secure the business, I think they just keep doing what they've been doing. Treat this customer as one of your most important brokers, one of the most like working with brokers. Because when I was a carrier working with brokers, I would categorize the brokers, right? Is he important or not? If you're important, I'm going to pay extra attention to your load. If you're not, then if I have like 5 trucks today, one driver calling sick and one load I have to miss, that's going to be the least important one. For shippers, same thing. They go immediately to the top, right? They pay you better. You want to maintain that relationship. Just treat them as your VIP customer, and earning more business from them. So I think that's something every carrier will excel at, is earning that trust, right? Providing them with updates, sending the POD immediately. Don't wait them to
Mm-hmm.
ask for it. When driver deliver a load, just get a POD over to them. And same way of how you're earning trust from brokers. They don't want to ask you where my truck is 10 times and you reply to
Yeah.
them. Let them know, hey, truck arrived at pickup. We're 1 hour, 30 minutes in. Detention about to start in 30 minutes, just so you know, truck hasn't started loading yet.
Mm-hmm.
Don't surprise them, right? And then another thing is delivering the bad news. Don't be afraid to tell them the bad news. Communicate is very,
Stuff
very
happens.
communicating with is very, very important. If your truck's not going to be able to pick up a load, try to figure out a way to make it work. If you still can't make it work, just be honest with them. Give them some prep time. Don't just not show up, or last minute tell them, "Hey, I'm sorry, truck is sick, driver is sick, or I have a blown tire on the freeway." Right? Let them know ahead of time so they can prepare. They can prepare. They know what it's like working with you. I think by doing the small things, the simple things, making the whether it's a shipper or a broker, making their job easy, they're going to be ones that, hey, he's worth that 200 extra on this lane because I know he's going to do a great job. I don't need to worry about anything, reliable. A lot of brokers I work with, they would be more than happy to give me 100, 200 extra just because of that how reliable we were when we worked together. So carriers, I think those are some of the most important things to keep in mind when it comes to earning trust.
When carriers are looking to transition from broker to specifically that broker dependent operation to just going out and securing direct shippers, what initial steps would you say a carrier needs to take? Say, hey, you know what? I've been working with brokers for forever now. I'm ready to go branch out on my own. What would be those steps that you think would be the first couple of steps to success when it comes down to it?
Uh, Great question there. The couple of steps. I think the number one thing is business card. Trucking company, most of them don't have a business card. From a marketing perspective, business card, and establish your online presence from a marketing perspective. On the other side is knowing your numbers. Like if you're going to shippers, you got to know where your cost is, and then what margin do you want to be. Working with shipper directly, there are pain points working with shippers. For example, they may have a longer pay period, and your factoring company may not tell you that, hey, we're not going to factor approve them because they don't have any credit history. They're not a broker, right? I think keeping those in mind, having some cash flow, knowing the numbers, how to quote shippers, and preparing your marketing materials will be probably the initial steps to approach them. And once you approach them, the most important part I see where most carriers mess up is not following up. Even if a shipper tells them that, hey, actually I have a project coming up in 2 months going from A to B, reach out to me. Let's stay in touch. Carriers reach out once, twice, and they stop reaching out, following up if they don't hear responses. I think having knowing the numbers, marketing material, and then having the mentality, I'm gonna become a salesperson. I'm gonna put on a sales hat. Being a sales guy means that you need to consistently learn about the industry. What are the tips when it comes to sales? How should I approach conversations? Right? Should I go to the front door? Should I go to the back door? How many phone calls? How often should I follow up with them when they ignore me? Right? Figuring those things out and being consistent, I think, is going to be the first step of understanding that part. The second part to it is a lot of owners go, I'm going to hire someone to do it. I'm going to hire someone to go knock on doors, to go make phone calls, to do emails. A lot of times it will not work because if you're the owner, you don't know how it works, you expect someone else to do it for you. Very likely, you don't even know how to give them feedback. If they get rejected, if they are doing their job or not, their workflow. Like, if you don't understand any of that, how can you lead them? You cannot lead them. In my opinion, is the owner has to get the fundamentals, the marketing material, the pricing data, all those together, go knock on some doors, have some success. Once you do that, repeat that a couple of times, and then you bring on a salesperson. Hey, I know this works. I've done it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to show you how it works, right? So you got to set up your people for success rather than bring them in asking them to figure out something that you cannot figure out yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wanna hit on the technology component of it too, because I think that's really important and really what Truckpedia is doing. Because yeah, that's one of the things that I mean, I've seen, several TMSs out there, and I really love what you built over there at Truckpedia. I think it's phenomenal, in its uniqueness, and we can talk about that here in a little bit on how it can help small carriers. But how has technology played overall in connecting carriers with shippers? And what solutions specifically does Truckpedia offer to facilitate those connections?
100%. So thank you for bringing that part up. Technology is probably often, I think right now, in the last year or so, carriers started to pay attention to technology. Before that, they were not really using technology. I think technology is very important. When you're going to knock on doors, who do you knock on? Like, where do you go? That's the
Yeah,
first thing. Second part is, what are the warehouse around you? Who's the decision maker? What's your phone number? What's your email? And what do they do at the company? Right. So those information is technology. Truckpedia, like, because of my frustration of not able to find shippers, we actually have a database of a little over 2 million logistic, any title with shipping manager, logistics manager in our system that we scrape online. We provide that with the contact info to carriers. You put in a zip code, you find this list type of shippers, and you figure out who you want to reach out to, who you want to knock on the door, who you want to call. Right, that's the first part. Second part, when it comes to technology, is going to be automation. Right, shippers. There were carrier that came to Truckpedia for help because he was knocking on doors, he was doing everything right, and then he tried for, I think what he told me is like 18 months of getting to the shipper's door. Shippers finally go, all right, I'm gonna give you a chance. Let's work together. Uh, give CC your IT person. Let's have an EDI connection. He
mhm,
goes, what's EDI? Right? A lot of carriers listening to this, if you don't know what EDI is and you're approaching a big shipper, you're probably haven't done your homework yet. You need to
you're
do
not
your
getting in the
homework to
door.
understand that, right? You need to exchange data, exchange loads, providing updates. Shippers, when it gets to a certain size, they're going to expect convenience. And if, same for yourself, right? You need to set your business up so you can work with anybody, providing automated rates, right? Say, what's your real time rate? Here, check out my system. I'm going to do a little markup. Here's my rate, what I'm charging, right? And then automated say, hey, I don't want to get manual updates. Like, I want to know. I don't need to know where every load is, but I need to know where it's at if I need to look it up. Provide them convenience with that, right? Billing automation, data entry we mentioned earlier. I think trucking companies don't realize how cheap it is to implement technology, to implement AI into their operations now, so that they can grow faster, right? I think every carrier, 5+ trucks, must have a TMS that set them up for
I
success.
agree.
They need to automate their operations. They need to track their numbers. They need to know if they're making profit or not. Are they overpaying, or are they overpaying for certain things? Look into the biggest expenses. You're not going to know how much you spend on tires. You're not going to know how much you spend on your fuel card, right? All those breakdown. You're not going to know any of that unless you have a system keeping track of all your expenses at your fingertip.
Yeah, I think that's you hit all of that on the head, especially a TMS. I look at it as a back office, right? If you run a restaurant, you got to have some sort of back office software. You got to be able to manage everything that's going in and coming out. And as you scale your business and as you grow in trucking, you're gonna have so many components, and you're gonna have to have one place to house it all. And we look at it from a standard operating procedure standpoint. Systems is everything. You rise to the level of your systems, and your ability to scale is only going to be your ability to implement those systems as a whole. Now, reflecting on your journey, as we kind of start to wrap up, Justin, what key lessons that you have learned that you'd like to share with any small carrier that's listening right now that are aiming to grow? The ones that started off with, the one truck, two truck operations that wanted to, hey, I want to scale up to 50 trucks like Justin. What would that look like? What would you say to them?
Great, great, great question. Tips, there's quite a few. If I have to think of about a couple of tips, the first one is going to be what we just mentioned right now, technology, right? TMS, or keep your all of your keep all of your information, driver files, everything in one system, so that you're ready for that type of growth. When it comes, running 50 trucks not easy, and then you soon become a big mess. You're not going to be able to hire dispatchers, train them fast enough to support your growth and to keep customers happy. Right? Technology, have a foundation. TMS is like your back office, your foundation. Have that strong foundation. Second part is figure out a plan to support that growth. For example, where are you going to find shippers from? Where are you going to purchase trucks from? Is it from auction? Is it buying new? Is it leasing? Right? What does that look like? And how do you get the best, fuel discount, parts discount, drivers? Where do you hire those people? Right? Figure out a plan, have a go-to-market strategy around that. Is as I scale, how do I keep everything, not breaking apart and keeping the cost low? That will be the second part. The third part is never stop learning. Like, don't think you know it already because you've been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years. The family's been doing it for a long time. Like, don't stop learning. Keep being curious. Like, what are other people doing? Going to conferences, one, to land shippers, two, is to talk to carriers. You'd be surprised how many of them are willing to share with you the what worked for them. How did they scale, right? What worked for them, and learn from them. Oh, who are you using for factoring? Where are you purchasing your tires from? Where are you getting your parts from? How do I get the best discount on this and that? Oh, I'm having trouble hiring drivers in this region. What worked for you guys to hire drivers and retain them, right? Asking people for help, and always be curious about how to make your business better. I think with these three things, if you have a TMS, if you have a good market strategy, everything when it comes to scaling, and also willing to ask for help, whether that's through LinkedIn, building your online presence, asking for help publicly, or going to conferences, or make some friends in industry. I think having these, anybody can make it happen, right? Anybody that wants to grow from 3 to 50, 50 to 100, like, if you keep on executing, it will come.
You just gotta put the work in. And you also gotta, just like you said earlier, you can't be afraid of the no's. You can't be afraid of the failures. You can't be afraid of the rejections because, it's just like a tennis ball. A tennis ball is only gonna bounce as high as it hits the ground. As hard as it hits the ground, the higher it goes up. And you gotta think of that as an entrepreneur, it's the same way. Sometimes it takes that really hard hit to the bottom for you to really just take it to the next level. And you learn a lot of lessons on the bottom that'll teach you on the rise up. And if you can run it up one time, you can always run it back up again. So beyond Truckpedia, as we wrapped up, were there any special innovations or developments in the industry that excite you and really just align for your vision in the future in regards to your product?
Absolutely. I think AI, everybody's talking about AI, but I think people still haven't realized how much it can do for the industry yet. A lot of the talks I remember going to last year, it was pretty abstract on what AI can do for you. You walk in, you listen to people talk, you come out, it's like, oh, so how can it help my fleet? I think in the next few years, it's going from abstract to very specific, right? Hey, these are the things you can do with AI. I think AI is, our industry was behind with technology for about 20 to 30 years. Since the deregulation, not much
Yeah.
happened. But in the last 3 to 5 years, our industry not only is catching up, but our industry is innovating. A lot of investors, VC monies, smart people from Stanford, from Harvard, even the industry people from within are innovating. I see a lot of carriers innovating, thinking about ideas on how I can scale and learning. And I think we're in a very interesting age, golden age, in the next 3 to 5 years. How much AI can automate our daily manual tasks, everything from data entry. A lot of stuff can be done already right now, right? Data entry, invoicing, driver settlement, tracking, etc. But more can happen in the next few years. I think we're just unleashing. We're at the beginning of unleashing that AI power.
And we're going to see it in full scope as we go through the next couple of years, because they always say every day AI is only going to is as dumb as it ever is going to be that day, and then every day it's just going to get smarter and smarter. Well, Justin, it was a pleasure talking to you and meeting with you today. Appreciate you bringing your wisdom and insight for the audience and those listeners that wanted to see what Truckpedia is about, or maybe book a demo, or maybe talk to somebody on your team. How can they reach out to you?
Just go on our website. You can schedule a demo on our website. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Probably the best way would be go on our website, and then you can just hit that book a demo button, and then we'll be more than happy to share all the lessons, all the features that work for me while I run a trucking company, and how they can benefit all carriers.
And give them that link to that website while we're on here.
Truckpedia.io. If you type in truckpedia.io, you'll be able to get on our website and book a meeting with us.
Man, that's awesome. Man, Justin, it's been a pleasure working with you. It's been a pleasure on this call today and taking the time out. I'm looking forward to seeing you and the Truckpedia team at the mats, as that's, obviously that's the I guess you want to call it the World Series of trucking. It's the largest truck show in the world. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of connect, for the listeners on here, some of the jewels that you can take away from today's particular podcast episode is, number one, if you really want to grow your business, don't let the other outside influences stop you. You're the only one that's standing between you and going out there and calling direct shippers. Pick up the phone. Don't be afraid to say no. Go out there and don't be afraid to knock on the door. If you don't ask the question, the answer is always going to be no. So make sure that you're doing that. And don't allow someone else's shortcomings or someone else's downfalls or what somebody says about what's going on affect you, because you have to mind your own business and your own business as a whole. Today's long haul episode just continues a journey. I want you to be in this for the long haul, but in order for you to stay around in the long haul, you got to make sure you continuously evolve. Justin talked about being innovative and making sure that you change and embracing technology and doing things like that. These are the things that help you differentiate yourself from your competition. You got to remember, your competition is not the environmental things that are going around you. Your competition is the motor carrier that's next to your number. And those are the things that you have to understand. So make sure that you like, share, subscribe this episode, subscribe to the Long Haul Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the playbook. As in the playbook, obviously, this is how we get down. Every 2 weeks, we're having classes on just things that specifically just like this. We're deep diving into those things that you can take out and you can actually implement directly in your business. So thanks for joining us on today's Long Haul episode. I'm looking forward to the next episode. Be safe out there. And make sure you go in and execute on everything that you do. Take care.